4 days in a row, this woman destroyed my kid's snowman, not by accident, deliberately. Drove her Mercedes right through it, middle finger out the window. My 9-year-old watching from inside, crying her eyes out. That snowman? Memorial to her mom. My wife died 2 years ago. Building snowmen was their thing. Brenda Whitmore's our HOA president. Snowmen violate some rule she made up, so she ran them over 4 times. 5th time, I built it different. This morning, she hit it again. The crunch woke up half the street. Airbags deployed. Her $92,000 Mercedes wrapped around a snowman that wouldn't move. What would you have done? Comments below. Where are you watching from? Keep watching. Because the snowman was personal. What came next was strategic. And that $92,000 Mercedes, that was just the beginning. My name's Marcus Holloway. Friends call me Mark. I'm 42, and up until 8 months ago, I was a structural engineer at Hammond & Associates here in Columbus, Ohio. 15 years with that company. Then corporate downsizing happened, and suddenly I was freelancing from my kitchen table, trying to make the mortgage work. But that's not the hard part of my story. 2 years ago, my wife Emma died. Ovarian cancer. 14 months from diagnosis to the end. She was 39 years old. The medical bills are still crushing me. You know how that goes in America. Some months I'm choosing between the electric bill and my daughter's piano lessons. My daughter Lily just turned 9. She's got her mother's eyes, her mother's smile. Sometimes when she laughs, it sounds exactly like Emma's laugh, like wind chimes on a July afternoon, and it breaks my heart and heals it at the same time. Emma had this tradition. Every first snowfall, she'd build these elaborate snowmen with Lily, not just your basic 3-ball Frosty. I'm talking themed masterpieces. One year they built Elsa from Frozen, complete with an ice dress made from blue food coloring. Another year, a 7-foot T-Rex. Emma was an artist. Everything she touched turned magical. The first winter after she died was brutal. Last year, our first December without her, Lily asked if we could build one more. We made Snow Emma, 7 feet tall, wrapped in Emma's favorite purple scarf. That scarf still smells like her lavender lotion when it gets damp. I can't explain what that smell does to me. This year, Lily wanted to build the biggest snow family ever. 7 snowmen, she said. 1 for each year they built them together. I couldn't say no. We live in Pinecrest Hills, a subdivision outside Columbus. It's a mixed neighborhood. Blue-collar veterans, young families, retirees. My house is a 1960s ranch, paid off, thank God, with Emma's life insurance. It needs paint, and the gutters sag, but it's solid. It's home. Then there's Brenda Whitmore. Brenda moved in 4 years ago and immediately ran for the HOA board. Within 6 months, she was president. Her house sits at the end of our cul-de-sac, 4,200 square feet of fake Tudor architecture manicured within an inch of its life. 0 personality, maximum pretension. She even got a variance approved for a 3-car garage, which nobody else in the neighborhood has. Funny how that worked out. December 8th, we got our first snow, 5 inches overnight. Lily and I spent 2 hours building a classic Frosty, 6 feet tall, carrot nose, button eyes, Emma's purple scarf wrapped around his neck. December 9th, I woke up to find him destroyed. Tire tracks straight through the middle, no note. I figured it was kids joyriding. December 10th, we rebuilt. Added wooden stakes for stability. Next morning, destroyed again. Deeper tire ruts this time. December 11th, I borrowed a doorbell camera from my neighbor Derek and installed it. We built another snowman, reinforced it, even poured ice water over it to harden overnight. December 12th, 6:47 a.m., the camera caught everything. White Mercedes GLS. Brenda's face clearly visible behind the wheel, smiling, actually smiling, as she turned onto my lawn for no reason. The street was completely clear. She accelerated and hit that snowman at 15 miles per hour. Snow exploded like a bomb. And then, as she drove off, she raised her middle finger directly at my camera. On the audio playback, you can hear Lily sobbing through the window. I tried the reasonable approach first. That afternoon, I walked to Brenda's house. She answered in tennis whites, spray tan fresh, wine glass in hand at 3 p.m. The chemical smell of that fake tan mixed with Chardonnay breath hit me before she even spoke. "Hey, Brenda," I said, keeping it polite. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. Your lawn decoration is a blight," she cut me off. "Property values, Marcus. This is a community. It's 30 feet from the road, I said, on my property. HOA Covenant 14.3.2. She recited like she'd memorized it. No structures without architectural review. That includes temporary obstructions. A snowman? You got a problem. Take it to the board. She smiled. Oh, wait, I am the board. Now get off my porch before I call Tom. Tom's our police chief, her golf buddy, apparently. She slammed the door. That evening, I found a certified letter in my mailbox. Notice of violation, unauthorized structure, $100 per day until removed. Dated retroactively to December 8th. I already owed $500. I showed Lily the letter that night. She looked up at me with those eyes, Emma's eyes, and asked, Daddy, why is she so mean? I don't know, sweetheart, I said, but mean people always mess up eventually. I didn't know it then, but I just declared war on the wrong engineer. That night, after Lily went to bed, I did what engineers do. I pulled up the HOA covenant, all 127 pages of it, and started reading. 3 hours and a pot of coffee later, I found something interesting. The covenant defines temporary structure as anything standing for more than 14 consecutive days. Snowmen melt. We rebuild them. Technically, they never stand for 14 days. Already, Brenda's enforcement was on shaky legal ground. But here's what really got me. I'd been working with HOA law for years. You pick things up when you're designing residential additions. Most people don't know this, but HOA covenants are only enforceable if applied uniformly across all residents. Selective enforcement? That's a legal gift wrapped in a bow. So I started documenting. I walked the neighborhood with my phone, taking photos. Deborah Martinez's fence, unpainted for 3 years, clear violation of Section 8.2.1, no fine. The Kowalskis had an RV parked in their driveway for 8 months straight. Section 6.1.4 explicitly prohibits that, no fine. And here's the kicker. Brenda's own rental property at 447 Maple had peeling paint, a broken gutter, and hedges that hadn't been trimmed since the Obama administration. Multiple violations. Zero enforcement. I created a spreadsheet. 23 violations across the neighborhood. Only one property being fined. Mine. Turns out most HOA covenants are only as powerful as their consistency. Apply rules to one person but ignore them for everyone else? That's called selective enforcement, and it won't hold up in court. My buddy Derek lives 3 houses down. He's an electrician, and he hates Brenda as much as I do. She once fined him for having his work van in the driveway. Derek helped me install a proper security system. 4 cameras, 2 angles on the front yard, 1 on the driveway, 1 facing the street. Cloud backup, motion alerts, the works. December 14th, Lily and I built a new snowman, 7 feet tall this time, with an internal bamboo frame for reinforcement. We named him Frosty 2, The Reckoning. Lily thought that was hilarious. 11:30 that night, my phone buzzed, motion alert. I pulled up the camera feed, and there she was. Brenda Whitmore, in a bathrobe and Ugg boots, sneaking across my lawn with a baseball bat. I watched her beat that snowman to death, breathing hard, visible satisfaction on her face. The crack of the bat hitting ice sounded like bones breaking on the audio feed. I didn't confront her. I saved the footage. I was building a case now. December 15th. Brenda must have realized she was being recorded because her strategy changed. She went bureaucratic. Certified letter number 2 arrived. Failure to comply. Fines now $250 per day, plus attorney fees. She'd invoiced me $750 for a retainer with the HOA attorney, her brother-in-law Randy, an ambulance chaser who barely passed the bar on his 3rd try. On paper, I now owed $1,500. December 16th, she filed a formal complaint with city zoning, claimed my repeated unauthorized structures were creating a public nuisance. The city inspector showed up on the 17th. His name was Gary, a guy in his 60s who looked deeply annoyed to be there. He walked my property line, checked the survey markers, and shrugged. "Sir, it's snow," he said. "It'll melt. I got real problems to deal with." But he had to note it in his file. Now Brenda had an official city complaint on record to cite whenever she wanted. That evening, I was checking my mailbox when I found a folded piece of paper tucked inside. Not mailed, hand-delivered. The note was handwritten. "She's stealing from the HOA fund. Check the community pool contractor invoices. A friend." I stood there in the cold, reading it twice. Well, I said out loud to nobody. December 18th, I decided to go full petty genius mode. We built an 8-foot snowman. Structural perfection. Derek helped me wire LED lights inside it so it glowed at night. We draped Emma's purple scarf on top like a crown. The carrot nose was actually high-grade polymer. Wouldn't freeze brittle. The coal buttons were painted stones. Permanent. Then I added a sign. Frosty Memorial Garden. In loving memory of Emma Holloway. Here's the beautiful thing about that. You can't find someone for a memorial without looking like an absolute monster. By evening, neighbors started coming by. Mrs. Isla, who's 72 and has lived here 30 years, brought origami paper cranes. Derek's wife brought solar lights. Within hours, it looked like a shrine. It was genuinely moving. Brenda watched from her window. I could see her silhouette, absolutely seething. But here's what she didn't understand. I wasn't doing this for sympathy, though that helped. I was making the snowman a community symbol. Because when she hit this one, every neighbor would witness her cruelty. Mrs. Isla sat in my living room that night sipping jasmine tea, that delicate floral smell filling the room, and told me about her own battles with Brenda. Fines for ethnic cooking smells. Mrs. Isla is Vietnamese. 30 years in this neighborhood, and Brenda called her food offensive to property values. I added that to my notes. December 19th, I started digging into that anonymous tip. Ohio law requires HOAs to make financial records available to any member within 10 business days of a written request. I sent a formal email to Brenda, CCing the entire board, her 2 rubber stamp cronies, Bill and Janice. Got an auto reply within seconds. HOA president out of office until January 3rd. Funny thing was, I had seen her at Kroger that same morning, loading her cart with wine. I filed a complaint with the Ohio Department of Commerce. They regulate HOAs in this state. While I waited for a response, I called Derek and asked about the community pool resurface project from summer 2023. Yeah, $40,000 for that, Derek said. My cousin does pool work. He said that's double the going rate. But what do I know? That got me thinking. I pulled the public HOA meeting minutes online. The pool project was approved in June 2023 for $42,000 to a company called Aqua Perfect Solutions, LLC. Then I checked Ohio's business registry. Aqua Perfect Solutions, registered agent address, same address as Brenda's maiden name. Same address as Whitmore Property Solutions, her rental management company. Let me break this down for you. In Ohio, HOA board members legally cannot award contracts to their own companies without full disclosure and a unanimous board vote. Brenda had approved her own company's inflated bid. That's not just shady, that's embezzlement. I had leverage now, but I stayed quiet. I was building the case brick by brick. December 21st, Brenda must have sensed I wasn't backing down because she went nuclear. She created a Facebook group called Pinecrest Community Concerns and posted ring footage from her doorbell showing me trespassing. That was from when I'd knocked on her door to talk. Her caption read, "This man harassed me at my home after I politely asked him to follow community rules. I'm a single woman living alone. I feel unsafe." That was a lie, by the way. Her husband travels for work, but he exists. Within 3 hours, the post had 47 shares, mostly from her country club friends. The comments were full of Karens supporting Karens. Someone even doxed my address, which was already public record but still felt threatening. But then something beautiful happened. The post backfired. Real neighbors, people who actually lived on our street, flooded the comments. "Brenda, you literally destroyed a memorial to his dead wife. I watched you hit the snowman with a bat on my camera. Remember when you fined me $800 for a garden gnome? Pepperidge Farm remembers." Derek posted the baseball bat video with my permission. The one showing Brenda beating the snowman to death at 11:30 at night. The group got reported and deleted within 6 hours. But the damage to Brenda's reputation was done. Everyone could see who the real villain was. December 22nd, I woke up to find my truck gone. Just gone. From my own driveway. There was a note on my door. "Vehicle towed per HOA violation 6.1.8, commercial vehicle storage." My truck is a 2015 F-150. I have a magnetic sign on the door that says Holloway Engineering Consulting for freelance gigs. Apparently that qualified as commercial. I called the towing company, Randy's Impound. Yes, same Randy, Brenda's brother-in-law, the lawyer. Recovery fee, $450 plus $80 a day storage. I called the police non-emergency line. Officer Rodriguez showed up, same cop from a previous incident, and reviewed the covenant. "Sir, technically, if your truck displays commercial signage, they can cite it," he said. "But this is a civil matter, not criminal. You'll have to sue." I paid the $450, put it on a credit card I couldn't afford, went to Randy's office, stale cigarette smoke everywhere, that sour smell clinging to everything, and dealt with his condescending smirk as he handed over my keys. I removed the magnetic sign, got my truck back. That night, I sat in my kitchen after Lily went to bed, just staring at the growing pile of bills. My phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mr. Holloway?" A woman's voice, older, shaking. "My name is Claire Donovan. I was HOA treasurer until Brenda pushed me out last year. That note you got, about the pool invoices, that was me. I have copies of everything. Can we meet?" December 23rd, I met Claire at a Starbucks 2 towns over. She was paranoid, kept looking over her shoulder. She brought a manila folder, hands trembling as she set it on the table. Inside, 3 years of HOA invoices. Aqua Perfect Solutions, Brenda's shell company, had billed the HOA $42,000 for the pool, $8,000 for landscaping that never happened, and $12,000 for community event planning. There were no community events. But here's the smoking gun. The Mercedes lease, paid monthly through an HOA community vehicle program. Except no such program existed in our bylaws. Claire had documentation showing approximately $78,000 in embezzlement. "I confronted her in 2023, Claire said, voice barely above a whisper. "She threatened to sue me for defamation. I'm on a fixed income. I couldn't afford to fight, so I backed down." She looked at me with watery eyes. "But you? You're already at war, and watching her destroy something beautiful, your family's tradition. I'm just tired of being scared." We shook hands across the table. My revenge plan had just gone weapons grade. "Why now?" I asked. "Because someone has to stop her," Claire said, "and you're the only one crazy enough to try." I smiled. "Crazy? Maybe, but I'm an engineer. We don't get mad, we get even. With math." Christmas Eve, December 24th, I built Snowman number 9. This one was different. 9 feet tall, professionally lit with Derek's help, and we installed a small sound system playing Let It Go on loop. Quiet enough not to violate noise ordinances, but audible if you walked by. The thing was magnificent. Drivers slowed down just to look at it. It was a slow holiday news cycle, and somehow a local news intern caught wind of the neighborhood snowman tradition. They sent a crew out. The interview aired on the evening broadcast Christmas Day. I stood there holding Lily's hand, and the reporter asked me about the snowman. "It's just about keeping my wife's memory alive for our daughter," I said, looking directly into the camera. "Some people don't understand that love doesn't follow HOA rules." The reporter asked about the controversy. I gave them my most diplomatic smile. "I respect Ms. Whitmore's position. I'm sure we can work it out like neighbors." Notice what I didn't mention? The fines, the towing, the harassment. I played the perfect victim. The story went mildly viral locally, about 8,000 shares. The comments were roasting HOAs in general, and Brenda by implication, without me saying a single negative word. That night, Derek's wife made tamales for the whole street. We all sat on my porch, the smell of masa and pork filling the cold air, watching the snowman glow like a beacon. It felt like community. It felt like what a neighborhood should be. December 26th, Brenda panicked. She called an emergency HOA board meeting and announced a special assessment. Every homeowner had to pay $500 for a legal defense fund, which was really just her personal protection fund. Bill and Janice, her 2 board cronies who rubber-stamped everything, voted yes immediately. The email went out that afternoon. $500 due by January 15th, or they'd place a lien on your property. This was her big mistake. Ohio. HOA law requires 30 days notice and a majority homeowner vote for any special assessment over $250. Brenda had violated both requirements. I filed a complaint with the state within an hour, CCing every neighbor in the subdivision. I forwarded Claire's embezzlement evidence to the state regulatory board anonymously, protecting her identity. That night, someone slashed 2 of my truck tires. $340 to replace them. No camera coverage. They hit a blind spot in my driveway. I suspected Brenda, but I couldn't prove it. I filed a police report anyway. Paper trail. Always leave a paper trail. December 27th, I went to City Hall and requested public records for all building permits at Brenda's address over the last 5 years. Cost me $20 in a 3-day wait. December 30th, I got the records. Jackpot. Brenda's 3-car garage, built in 2022, was approved with a variance for medical equipment storage related to her husband's supposed home healthcare business. I checked the state business licenses. No healthcare business at that address. None. The variance approval was signed by the Planning Commission, which included Councilman Chip Whitmore, her brother-in-law. That's a false permit application, a misdemeanor, plus a conflict of interest violation. And there was more. Her rental property at 447 Maple had a structural addition built in 2021 with no permit at all. City code enforcement had never been called. That violation alone carried a $10,000 fine. Here's what most people don't know. False information on government permit applications isn't just an oops. It's a crime. And when family members approve each other's permits without disclosure, that's corruption, plain and simple. I now had 3 nuclear options: embezzlement evidence, criminal permit fraud, unpermitted construction. Any one of these could destroy her, but I wanted all 3 to land at once. December 31st, New Year's Eve, I invited the entire street to a Snowman building party at my house. I provided hot chocolate, snacks, supplies. Over 20 neighbors showed up, everyone except Brenda and her cronies. We built 12 snowmen in my yard, all different sizes. Kids were playing, adults were laughing. Mrs. Isla taught the children how to make origami snowflakes. Derek strung lights connecting all the snowmen together. It was joyful. It was what community should feel like. But I had an ulterior motive. I quietly pulled aside 6 neighbors I trusted completely. I showed them the embezzlement evidence on my phone, the permit fraud documentation. I'm taking her down, I said, but I need witnesses to what happens next. Are you with me? All 6 agreed immediately. Tom Fletcher, a 71-year-old Vietnam vet, growled, "About damn time someone stood up to that woman." We shook hands in a circle like a team heading into battle. The trap was set. Now I just needed to build the bait. And oh, was I going to build something she couldn't ignore. January 2nd, I found a package on my doorstep. No return address, just a padded envelope. Inside, a USB drive and a printed note. The note read, "You're not the only one she's destroyed. This is everything. Finish it. CB." I plugged the USB into my laptop. 200 pages of scanned documents loaded onto the screen. Complete HOA financial records from 2021 through 2024. Email printouts between Brenda and her shell company. Text message screenshots between Brenda and the councilman discussing helping each other out with permits. And then I found it. The bombshell. An audio file, 4 minutes and 17 seconds long. I clicked play. Brenda's voice came through my speakers, crystal clear. She was on the phone with someone, sounded like her husband. "These people are idiots," she said. "As long as I keep them scared of fines, they'll pay whatever I say." The pool thing was genius. Mike's company got $40,000 for a $20,000 job, and we split the difference. Now I just need to get rid of this engineer asshole before he figures it out. The date stamp on the file, December 18th, 2 weeks ago. I played it 3 times, hands shaking. Not from fear, from vindication. Who was CB? I texted Claire. It wasn't her. The mystery sender remained anonymous, but I had a suspicion it was a former board member Brenda had pushed out. January 3rd, I spent $500 I didn't have to consult a real attorney. Her name was Melissa Park, mid-40s, sharp as a knife. She handled HOA litigation. I showed her everything. The embezzlement docs, the permit fraud, the audio recording. Melissa leaned back in her chair, impressed. She's going to prison. Possibly. The recording is admissible under Ohio's one-party consent law, assuming whoever recorded it consented. The embezzlement is clear-cut. The permit fraud is criminal. You have enough to destroy her 10 times over. I want her out of the HOA, I said, out of power, and I want to make sure she can never do this to anyone again. What's my move? Melissa tapped her pen on the desk. 2 paths. Path 1, file a police report, let the state investigate, wait 18 months, maybe get justice. Path 2, public exposure, force an HOA revolt, make her resign under pressure, then file criminal complaints with the evidence already public so she can't hide or destroy anything. Path 2 is faster, and you control the narrative. Path 2, I said without hesitation. But I need one more thing. I need her to destroy herself on camera, in front of everyone. Melissa grinned. You want to set a trap? I'm an engineer, I said. Traps are what I do. January 4th and 5th, I designed what I called Project Frosty's Revenge in my notebook, the final Snowman. Core specifications: an 800-pound ice cylinder, 5 feet tall, 3 feet in diameter. I'd freeze it in sections inside an industrial drum Derek borrowed from a construction site. Interior reinforcement, a rebar cage engineered for maximum rigidity. Exterior, traditional snowman appearance with packed snow and decorations. The base would be anchored to the ground with a buried concrete footer 18 inches deep, poured overnight. Location was critical. I'd studied Brenda's driving pattern for weeks. Every morning at 6:45, she cut across the corner of my lawn on her way to yoga. A shortcut. Technically trespassing, but who's counting? I'd placed the beast exactly where her shortcut intersected my property. 6 feet from the sidewalk, 0 code violations. Completely legal. Here's the physics. A Mercedes GLS weighs 5,600 pounds. At 15 miles per hour, hitting an immovable 800-pound ice and steel cylinder, all that force transfers to the vehicle. Front bumper, minimum $4,000 damage. Radiator and condenser, likely punctured. Frame, possible deformation. Airbags, guaranteed deployment. Total damage estimate, $12,000 to $25,000. Newton's third law doesn't care about your insurance premium. Equal and opposite reactions mean an immovable object beats an expensive car every single time. I ran the calculations 5 times. It wasn't about destroying her car. It was about stopping her from destroying my peace and documenting her recklessness for the world to see. January 6th through 10th, I worked at night while Lily stayed at friends' houses or with neighbors. The construction had to be perfect. Night 1, January 6th. Derek and I dug the foundation. We went 18 inches deep, 24 inches in diameter. The ground was frozen, felt like chipping concrete with every shovel strike. But we got there, mixed 200 pounds of concrete, poured it into the hole, embedded a steel anchor plate in the center, covered everything with a tarp and loose dirt to let it cure. The smell of wet concrete mixing with frozen earth is distinct, chalky and mineral, like the earth itself is protesting. Night 2 and 3, January 7th and 8th, building the ice core. This was the tricky part. We positioned a 55-gallon industrial drum directly over the cured footer. The temperature outside was holding steady at 15 degrees Fahrenheit, perfect for our purposes. I filled the drum with water in layers, letting each section freeze solid overnight before adding the next pour. Between layers, I inserted the rebar cage, positioning it precisely so the steel sat embedded in the ice. Each layer took 8 hours to freeze completely. By the morning of January 9th, I had a solid 800-pound ice monolith. We cut away the drum with an angle grinder, revealing the core. Here's something most people don't know. Ice at this thickness, 36 inches in diameter, has a compressive strength of over 500 psi. That's comparable to low-grade concrete. It's not going anywhere. Night 4, January 10th. Sculpting and disguising. This is where artistry met engineering. I packed snow around the ice core in a 2 to 3 inch layer, sculpting it into a traditional 3-tier snowman shape. Carrot nose made from polymer that wouldn't freeze brittle. Coal buttons were actually painted stones, permanent. And at the very top, 8 feet off the ground, I wrapped Emma's purple scarf. Lily had insisted on using the real one. The snowman looked identical to all our previous ones. Cheerful, innocent. But this one weighed 10 times more than any snowman had a right to weigh. If you looked closely, you could see a faint bluish tint to the core, but nobody would look that closely. I filmed the entire construction process with timestamps and a measuring tape showing property lines. Everything was legal. Documentation is everything. January 11th, I hosted a pizza night at my house. 8 neighbors showed up, my resistance committee. I walked them outside and showed them the beast standing there in all its glory. They were simultaneously awed and terrified. Here's the plan, I said. Brenda hits this, her car is done. But I need witnesses, I need cameras, and I need everyone to act completely normal until it happens. Derek volunteered his driveway camera, perfect angle on my front yard. Mrs. Isla would happen to be walking her dog Biscuit at 6:45 a.m. Tom Fletcher would be getting his newspaper. Surveillance disguised as routine. My own cameras were upgraded to 4K, 4 different angles, cloud backup. Melissa, my lawyer, was on speed dial for the moment it happened. When she hits it, do not approach her, I said. Let her react. Let her incriminate herself. Record everything. Then we go to the emergency HOA meeting I'm going to demand, and we end this. Everyone shook hands in the center, like a sports team before the big game. Tom Fletcher, the Vietnam vet, had tears in his eyes. 30 years I've lived here, he said. This is the best thing I've ever been part of. January 12th and 13th, I finalized the paper trail. I created 3 folders, physical copies and digital backups. Folder 1, embezzlement evidence, all financial records, shell company documentation, invoice comparisons, bank records from Claire, the audio recording. Folder 2, permit fraud, the false application, conflict of interest evidence, photos of the unpermitted construction. Folder 3, HOA abuse, timeline of selective enforcement, photos of ignored violations, copies of illegal fines, towing receipts, the illegal special assessment. I made multiple copies and distributed them. One set to Melissa, one to Derek for safekeeping, one in a safe deposit box at the bank. 3 different cloud storage services. I wrote formal complaint letters, ready to mail, Ohio Attorney General for embezzlement, State HOA Regulatory Board, City Code Enforcement for permit fraud, IRS for unreported income from the shell company, all dated, signed, stamped, ready to go. But I waited. I wanted the car crash first, maximum leverage. January 14th, the night before, I made final adjustments. I added fresh snow to the beast, making it look brand new. Derek's Christmas lights were wired inside, creating a soft glow. I positioned it exactly on Brenda's shortcut path. I'd measured her tire tracks 20 times over the past month. 4 feet from the sidewalk, 6 feet inside my property line, fully legal. Lily helped me add Emma's scarf. She stood on Derek's shoulders to reach the top. Then she whispered, "Get her, Daddy." I kissed my daughter's forehead. "She's gonna get herself, sweetheart. We're just providing the opportunity." I set all cameras to motion activate at 6:30 a.m. Texted the group chat, "Tomorrow, 6:45, be ready." I went to bed but barely slept. Lily had hugged me goodnight with her snow-damp gloves, and my pillow smelled like fresh snow and possibility. January 15th, 6:20 a.m. My alarm went off, but I was already awake. I'd slept maybe 3 hours, running through every possible scenario in my head. I made coffee in the dark kitchen, positioned myself at the window with a perfect view of the street. My phone showed all 4 camera feeds. Recording, battery full, cloud backup active. The texts started coming in. Derek. Camera rolling. Let's do this. Mrs. Isla. I'm walking Biscuit now, nervous. Tom. Locked and loaded. This is better than Tet. 6:35. Brenda's house lights came on at the end of the cul-de-sac. 6:41. Her garage door opened. The white Mercedes backed out, pristine and gleaming under the streetlights. She was wearing yoga gear, Lululemon, probably $400 worth, hair perfect, makeup done, off to her 7 a.m. class like clockwork. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The coffee tasted like battery acid mixed with adrenaline, bitter and electric. Brenda pulled forward down her driveway, paused at the street, then started toward the main road. I whispered to myself, "Come on, you entitled piece of..." 6:44. The Mercedes approached my house. I could see Brenda's face through the windshield. She spotted the beast, new, glowing, magnificent, and her expression twisted. Pure rage. Her knuckles went white on the steering wheel. And then she accelerated. Not slowed down, not swerved to avoid it. Accelerated. She aimed directly at the Snowman, 20 miles per hour, maybe 25. Deliberate. Intentional. Malicious. The impact sounded like a bomb going off. Crunch, crash, hiss. The Mercedes hood crumpled like aluminum foil. Metal screamed. The radiator exploded in a geyser of steam and coolant. Both airbags deployed with twin bangs that echoed down the street. Bang, bang, like gunshots. The beast didn't move, didn't even shudder. The snow exterior cracked and fell away, revealing the blue ice core underneath, standing there like an ancient monolith. unmoved, unimpressed. The Mercedes sat there, front end completely destroyed, fluids pouring onto my lawn, engine smoking, hood bent upward at an unnatural angle. Brenda stumbled out of the driver's side, covered in white airbag powder, nose bleeding from the impact. She looked like a ghost, disoriented and furious. And then she lost it. She started screaming at the snowman. Not at me, at the snowman. You mother... I won't repeat the rest. Let's just say she exhausted her vocabulary of profanity. She kicked the beast, which just hurt her foot, then hopped around screaming. She tried to push it over, got nowhere, and fell backward onto the frozen grass. The hissing of coolant hitting the hot engine mixed with the chemical smell of deployed airbags. That acrid, powdery scent that stings your nose. And above it all, Brenda's raw throat screaming. 4 cameras captured everything in 4K. Mrs. Isla appeared on the sidewalk, walking biscuit, playing her role perfectly. "Oh my goodness, are you okay?" Brenda spun on her. "He did this. That F-ing engineer set a trap." I took a breath, put on my calmest face, and walked outside in my bathrobe, coffee mug still in hand. "Brenda," I called out, voice dripping with concern. "Are you all right? I heard a crash." She whirled on me, shaking, pointing. You did this on purpose." "Did what?" I said innocently. "I built a snowman on my property. You just drove into it?" "It's a trap," she shrieked. "That's not a snowman. It's ice and snow," I said calmly, "with a steel frame for stability. Perfectly legal. Checked with code enforcement myself. I'll sue you for everything. For building a snowman on my property?" I took a sip of coffee. 6 feet from the sidewalk, 0 violations. Please do sue me. I would love to explain to a judge why you drove onto my lawn to hit it. Again. Derek walked over from his house, playing concerned neighbor. "Brenda, maybe you should call your insurance." That's when reality hit her. I watched it happen in real time. The rage drained from her face, replaced by terror. This is entrapment," she sputtered. "That's not what entrapment means," I said. "But I'm not a lawyer, so what do I know?" Tom Fletcher called from his yard, newspaper in hand. "Lady, you just admitted to hitting it on purpose. I heard every word." Brenda's face went from red to white. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and called someone, probably her husband or her now former lawyer. She walked away, muttering, leaving her $92,000 Mercedes smoking in the street like a defeated metal beast. 7:10 a.m. 2 patrol cars arrived. Someone had called 911. Officer Rodriguez stepped out. Same cop from the towing incident, along with Officer Kim. They surveyed the scene. Destroyed Mercedes, the beast standing proud with barely a scratch, me standing there in my bathrobe looking like I'd just stepped outside to enjoy the sunrise. Rodriguez walked over, suppressing what looked like a smile. "Sir, you built a snowman that totaled her car?" "I built a snowman, officer," I said. "She's hit my snowman 9 times in the past month. I have footage. This time, I made one that wouldn't break. It's entirely on my property. No code violations. She chose to drive into it." I pulled up my phone and showed him the footage. Brenda accelerating deliberately toward the beast. Officer Kim crouched down, examining the exposed ice core. Is that rebar inside?" "Structural reinforcement," I said. "There's no law against that." Rodriguez looked at me for a long moment, then at Brenda, who was on the phone with her insurance company, screaming that it was a booby trap. I could hear the insurance agent on speakerphone. "Ma'am, if you intentionally struck an object on someone else's property, that's not covered under your policy." Rodriguez turned back to me. "Sir, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you're not at fault here. She destroyed her own vehicle by hitting a stationary object on your property. That's on her." They took statements and photos. I gave them copies of all my footage. Brenda sat on her front steps, covered in airbag powder, mascara running, watching her perfect life crack apart like her Mercedes windshield. Physics doesn't care about your feelings. Newton was right all along. By 9 a.m., the footage had leaked. Derek accidentally posted the crash video to our neighborhood Facebook group. By 11 a.m., it had 40,000 shares across multiple platforms. The hashtags started trending. Hashtag #HoKaren, hashtag Snowman Revenge, hash Ice Justice, and my personal favorite, #Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes. Local news picked it up by noon, regional networks by 3 p.m. CNN ran it on their evening broadcast. My original doorbell footage from December 13th, Brenda's middle finger as she destroyed that first snowman, went viral alongside the crash. Someone made a side-by-side video, Brenda destroying the snowman, then Brenda's destroyed Mercedes. The caption, 800 pounds of F around meets $92,000 of find out. The memes were instant. The internet is undefeated when it comes to creative mockery. The narrative crystallized perfectly. Underdog widower engineer versus entitled HOA tyrant. David versus Goliath, except David used physics instead of a slingshot. A local news crew showed up at my house at 4 p.m. I gave them exactly one interview, standing in front of the beast with Lily beside me. I just wanted to honor my wife's memory without harassment, I said, keeping my voice even and sympathetic. Ms. Whitmore made her own choices. I built a snowman. She drove into it. Those are the facts. I never gloated, never celebrated, stayed humble. But here's what happened next. National attention meant national scrutiny on Pinecrest Hill's HOA. By evening, investigative reporters started digging into Brenda's background. Channel 7's investigative team out of Columbus requested HOA financial records, which are public information in Ohio. January 15th, that evening, Brenda panicked. She sent an email calling an emergency HOA meeting for January 17th at 7 p.m. Subject line, mandatory meeting to discuss security threats and property damage. She was trying to frame me as dangerous, the villain, the threat to community safety. It wasn't going to work, but I appreciated her trying. January 16th, Brenda hired a crisis PR firm. Probably cost her thousands, likely paid with HOA money again. They drafted a statement. Ms. Whitmore regrets the misunderstanding and remains committed to community harmony. The board is reviewing neighborhood safety protocols. Weak. Nobody bought it. That evening, Channel 7 aired a special segment on HOA corruption in Ohio. They featured Pinecrest Hills prominently and interviewed Claire Donovan, the former treasurer. Claire appeared on camera, hands shaking but voice determined. I have evidence of embezzlement, tens of thousands of dollars. I've been too scared to come forward for 2 years. But after watching what she did to that family, to that little girl's memorial to her mother, no more silence. She'd provided them with partial documentation, enough to be credible, enough to be devastating. The domino fell. The Ohio Attorney General's office announced an inquiry into Pinecrest Hill's HOA financial practices before the segment even finished airing. Brenda's lawyer, Randy, the ambulance chaser, immediately quit. Rats fleeing a sinking ship. January 17th, the day of the HOA meeting, I prepared carefully. Melissa, my attorney, would attend with me. I'd printed packets for every homeowner, 80-page dossiers containing full embezzlement evidence, permit fraud documentation, and abuse timelines, indexed, highlighted, professionally bound. My goal, forced resignation, revoked board powers, and a vote to restructure the entire HOA. 6 p.m., homeowners started arriving at the community center. Normally, 12 to 15 people showed up for these things. Tonight, 68 out of 94 homeowners appeared, record attendance. The parking lot was full, plus media. 2 local stations, 1 newspaper reporter, all covering what they were calling Snowman Gate. Brenda sat at the head table looking haggard, expensive suit wrinkled, an actual criminal defense lawyer beside her now. Randy had been replaced. Bill and Janice, her rubber stamp cronies, sat on either side looking like they wanted to be anywhere else. I sat in the front row, folder in my lap, calm as a lake. Lily was in the childcare room with Claire Donovan keeping her company. 7 p.m. sharp. Meeting called to order. Brenda read from a prepared script, voice shaking. Recent events have been distorted by social media. This board has always acted in the community's best interests. Tom Fletcher stood up. Point of order. I move to suspend this board immediately pending a formal investigation. The room erupted in applause. Brenda's face went pale. You can't, that's not proper procedure. Melissa stood, voice clear and professional. Actually, under Ohio Revised Code Section 5528 and your own bylaws, any member can motion for emergency board suspension with 25% member support. I count 68 members present. If 24 vote yes, this board is suspended effective immediately. Brenda's lawyer leaned over, whispering urgently to her. I stood up. Before we vote, I'd like to present evidence to the community. I started distributing the packets. Every attendee got one. 80 pages of receipts, invoices, photos, legal documentation, and witness statements. Page 4 documents $78,000 in embezzled HOA funds through shell companies, I said, my voice carrying through the silent room. Page 12 shows false permit applications signed by family members, criminal fraud. Page 23 details 3 years of selective enforcement targeting specific residents, including patterns of racial and age discrimination. Derek had brought a projector. I connected my laptop and displayed the documents on the screen at the front of the room. Then I played the audio recording. Brenda's voice filled the community center. These people are idiots. As long as I keep them scared of fines, they'll pay whatever I say. The pool thing was genius. Mike's company got $40,000 for a $20,000 job and we split the difference. Dead silence. Then the room exploded. Shouting, people standing. Brenda's face went completely white. That recording is illegal, she shouted over the chaos. Melissa's voice cut through. Ohio is a one-party consent state. The person who recorded this consented. It's fully admissible in court and as evidence here. I held up a USB drive. I'm submitting all of this to the state attorney general tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. But tonight, this community deserves to vote on whether you remain in power. The room erupted again, this time in agreement. The chaos lasted 5 solid minutes. Brenda's new lawyer tried to take control. My client declines to comment on pending legal matters. Mrs. Isla stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steel. I want to speak, she said. The room went quiet. Brenda fined me $600 last year for what she called ethnic cooking smells. Mrs. Isla's voice cracked. I'm Vietnamese. I've lived in this neighborhood for 30 years. She called my food offensive to property values. She told me I was lowering the tone of the community. Is that in your evidence, Marcus? I nodded. Page 34, discrimination complaints section. Other neighbors stood up, one after another. Derek. She fined me $800 for parking my work van in my own driveway. I'm an electrician. I need that van to feed my family. The Martinez family. She filed noise complaints against us 6 times in 1 year, said our loud parties were disrupting the neighborhood. We speak Spanish at family dinners. That's it. That's the loud party. A young black couple I'd seen around but never talked to. She called the cops on our family members for being unauthorized guests. They were visiting for Thanksgiving. She claimed they didn't belong here. The pattern was undeniable. Brenda hadn't just been corrupt. She'd been systematically targeting anyone she deemed undesirable, anyone who didn't fit her narrow definition of property values. Tom Fletcher stood. I call the question. All in favor of immediate board suspension, raise your hands. 64 hands shot up out of 68 present. Motion passes, Tom declared. Brenda shot to her feet. You can't do this. This isn't legal. I'll sue every one of you. Melissa's voice was calm. It's absolutely legal. You're suspended, effective immediately. Please vacate the board table. Brenda was shaking with rage now, completely unraveling. You people are ungrateful. I kept property values up. I maintained standards, and this snake, she pointed directly at me. He manipulated all of you. He built a weapon to destroy my car. That's assault with a deadly weapon. I stayed seated, took a slow sip from my water bottle, and waited for her to finish. I built a snowman, I said quietly, but everyone heard me. You destroyed it 9 times. 9 times you drove onto my property and destroyed something my daughter built to remember her dead mother. All of it on camera. The 10th time, I built one you couldn't destroy. That's not assault. That's physics. And you did it to yourself. You cost me $92,000. No, I said, standing now. You cost yourself $92,000 with a vehicle you leased using embezzled HOA money. You want to discuss that in front of everyone? The room gasped. Not everyone had caught that detail yet. Brenda's lawyer grabbed her arm. Brenda, stop talking, right now. But she couldn't stop. She was completely unhinged. I made this neighborhood. Before me, it was filled with those people. Everything stopped. Every single person in that room froze. Phone cameras came up, recording. Brenda realized what she'd just said. Her hand flew to her mouth. That's not what I meant. Claire Donovan stood up from the back of the room. Yes, it is. You told me in 2023 that we needed to clean up the demographic of this neighborhood. Those were your exact words. I remember because they made me sick to my stomach. I looked at Brenda, then at the room full of neighbors. Ladies and gentlemen, your HOA president. Brenda grabbed her purse and tried to leave, but Tom Fletcher moved to block the door. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "the police are outside. They'd like a word about the embezzlement evidence." Through the windows, we could all see two plainclothes detectives talking with Officer Rodriguez. Brenda's face went from rage to pure terror in an instant. The door opened. Detectives Michaels and Tran from Franklin County's white-collar crime unit stepped inside. "Brenda Whitmore," Detective Michaels said. "I want my lawyer," Brenda said immediately. "That's absolutely your right," Michaels replied. "We have a warrant for financial records and some questions about HOA fund management. You're not under arrest at this time, but we need you to come to the station voluntarily, or we can do this the other way." Brenda turned to her lawyer. "Fix this, now!" The lawyer was already backing toward the door. "I'm not a criminal defense attorney. You need to call someone who specializes in fraud cases. This is out of my scope." He walked out, just left her there. Brenda stood alone in front of 68 neighbors, all watching her fall from grace in real time. She looked at me one last time. "I hope you're happy." I met her eyes. "I'm not happy. My wife is dead. My daughter cried herself to sleep 9 nights in a row because you destroyed something beautiful out of pure spite. You used your power to hurt people for years. You targeted families for speaking Spanish, for cooking ethnic food, for not looking like your country club friends. So, no, Brenda, I'm not happy. But I'm satisfied. Justice isn't always happy. Sometimes it's just necessary." She walked out with the detectives. The room stayed silent for 10 full seconds. Then spontaneous applause broke out. Not loud or celebratory. Quiet. Relieved. Like exhaling after holding your breath for years. Lily ran in from the childcare room. "Did we win, Daddy?" I picked her up, hugged her tight. "Yeah, baby, we won." Outside the community center, news crews swarmed. I gave one brief statement. "This was never about revenge," I said to the cameras. "It was about standing up to abuse of power. Brenda Whitmore used fear and discrimination to control this neighborhood. Today, the community took that power back. I hope this sends a message to every HOA in America. Your residents are people, not ATMs. If you steal from them, hurt them, or discriminate against them, eventually someone will stand up. Maybe it'll be an engineer with a snowman." I smiled. "Maybe it'll be you." A reporter shouted, "Will you sue her personally?" "The state will handle criminal charges," I said. "The HOA will handle civil recovery of stolen funds. Me? I just want peace. I want my daughter to build snowmen without fear. That's all I ever wanted." "What happens to the snowman?" I looked back at my yard where the beast still stood, floodlit and magnificent. "He stays up all winter," I said. "He earned it." I walked to my truck with Lily on my shoulders, the news crews filming us leaving, the beast standing guard behind us like a frozen sentinel. Physics had won. Truth had won. And somewhere, I think Emma was smiling. The next 72 hours moved fast. January 18th, Brenda was formally charged with 3 counts of embezzlement, 2 counts of fraud, and filing false government documents. Bond was set at $50,000. Her husband paid it, then filed for divorce within 48 hours. Can't say I blamed him. January 20th, the HOA held an emergency session. 62 homeowners voted to dissolve the existing board entirely and elect an interim leadership. Claire Donovan became president. Tom Fletcher took treasurer. Derek became secretary. Their first action? A complete financial audit. They discovered an additional $22,000 in hidden charges and fake invoices. Total theft, over $100,000 across 3 years. Their second action? Refund all illegal fines issued in the last 3 years. $47,000 returned to residents. People were getting checks in the mail for fines they'd paid out of fear. City code enforcement inspected Brenda's rental properties and found $63,000 in code violations. Unpermitted construction, safety hazards, zoning violations. She was forced to sell 2 properties just to pay the fines. Her house went up for sale January 25th. Divorce asset liquidation. She moved in with her sister in Cincinnati. The neighborhood felt different after she left. Lighter somehow. Like we'd all been holding our breath for years and finally exhaled. People actually waved at each other again. Kids played in the streets. January 25th. I sat on my porch watching Lily and a dozen neighborhood kids build a snow family. 12 snowmen of all different sizes arranged like a family portrait. Derek sat down beside me with 2 beers. "How you feeling, man?" "Tired," I admitted. "Relieved. Little bit sad it had to go that far. You gave us our neighborhood back, Derek said. Mrs. Isla came over with tea and a string of origami cranes. For Emma, she said softly, so she knows her family is safe now. I cried. First time I'd really cried since the verdict. Not sad tears, grateful ones. That night, Lily and I sat in the living room looking at photos of Emma. For the first time in months, I felt warm memory instead of crushing grief. Mommy would be proud, right? Lily asked. She'd be proud you never gave up on our tradition, I said. February 1st, the new HOA board announced comprehensive reforms. They formed a covenant rewrite committee led by residents. All fines were capped at $50 and only for genuine safety issues. Financial reports would be published monthly, and they added an explicit anti-discrimination clause to the bylaws. February 14th, the community voted on how to use the recovered embezzlement funds, $128,000 total, including Brenda's settlement. $40,000 went to properly repair the community pool. $30,000 established the Emma Holloway Memorial Scholarship for engineering students who'd lost parents. $25,000 funded neighborhood park renovation with a new playground. $20,000 created a legal defense fund for residents fighting abusive HOAs. The rest went to reserves. March 1st, park renovation started. The centerpiece was a bronze plaque on a bench overlooking the playground. Emma's Garden, where love melts barriers. Lily chose the spot, under the big oak tree where the sun hits in the afternoon. The first annual Snowman Festival was scheduled for the first Saturday of every winter. Families building together, hot chocolate, lights, music. The first one in mid-March drew over 200 people despite the late snow. April 2025, Brenda's trial concluded. She pleaded guilty to embezzlement and fraud. The evidence was overwhelming. Sentencing: 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, $130,000 in restitution, and a lifetime ban from HOA leadership positions statewide. 14 homeowners filed civil suits. I didn't. I was done. Melissa told me I could have destroyed her worse. You showed mercy, she said. The system did its job, I replied. I'm done fighting. May brought warm weather and the scholarship announcement. The first recipient was Mrs. Isla's granddaughter, an engineering major who'd lost her father in 2023. I gave her the award at the community center. Emma believed engineering wasn't about building things, I said. It was about solving problems for people. She'd love that her memory helped someone follow that path. The ice core from the beast finally melted in March, but the steel rebar frame remained in my yard. The neighborhood voted to keep it. We commissioned a local artist to create a permanent bronze snowman statue mounted on the base. Title: Stand Firm. It was unveiled June 1st. Lily, now 10 years old, stood beside me at the ceremony. It's perfect, Daddy. Yeah, I said. It really is. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table typing an email to the neighborhood. Next winter's Snowman Festival. Theme ideas? 40 responses in 10 minutes. I smiled, closed my laptop, and went to help Lily with her homework. The war was over. We'd won. And for the first time in 2 years, the future felt bright. So here's my challenge to you. Got an HOA nightmare story? Drop it in the comments below. The best one next month gets their own video. I want to hear your stories, and hit that subscribe button because next week I'm dropping another one. Nightmare neighbor called code enforcement 47 times until I discovered his $200,000 tax fraud. Trust me, you won't believe how that one ends. Remember this, HOAs only have the power you give them. Stay informed, document everything, know your rights, read your covenants, show up to meetings, and never ever let bullies make you feel small in your own home. Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and build your snowmen tall.